Dear students, today we will be dealing with the session on environment protection and future challenges. First, the objectives under the lesson are to understand the future challenges and its impact, to understand the need for environment impact assessment, to understand the concept of public hearing in India, and to understand the measures taken to deal with the problems of environment. First, let us know the introduction to the future challenges in the environment protection. The fundamental question before us today is whether we can allow the destruction of the environment leading to the destruction of living creatures, including human beings on this planet. Total exploitation of forests, indiscriminate carrying, pollution of rivers and other water resources, rapid increase of air and noise pollution, it is still possible to protect the deteriorating environment through proper policies and management. Efforts initiated by the Government of India, non-governmental organizations and public at different levels can be appreciated. As rightly pointed out by the former Indian Prime Minister, late Rajiv Gandhi, in his foreword to Our Common Future, the World Commission on Environment and Development, 1987, the main challenges before humankind are three: to preserve peace, to eradicate poverty, and to conserve the environment. A major change is required in our outlook and our methods. In order to deal with such challenges, the government has developed various mechanisms for environment protection and conservation. Now, let us know about the climate change impacts on public health and welfare. The risks to public health and the environment from climate change are substantial and far-reaching. Scientists warn that carbon pollution and resulting climate change are expected to lead to more intense hurricanes and storms, heavier and more frequent flooding, increased drought and more severe wildfires, events that can cause deaths, injuries and billions of dollars of damage to property and the nation's infrastructure. Climate change also puts pressure on natural resources that are essential for sustaining human civilization. In the past, resource scarcity was often presented as a critical challenge, but for much of the 20th century, resource prices actually fell. The over-exploitation of planet Earth due to development has tended to homogenize Earth's biota and resulted in two increasingly serious environmental problems: the spread of animal vector diseases and the invasion of exotic species. Species are transported around the world inadvertently on ships, airplanes and automobiles. Others are deliberately imported for agriculture, horticulture, biologic control and recreation. These patterns of change have resulted in a suite of current and emerging environmental and human challenges for the Environment Protection Act, such as over-consumption of resources and creation of plastics are creating a global crisis of waste disposal. Developed countries are producing an excessive amount of water or garbage and dumping their waste in the oceans and less developed countries. Nuclear waste disposal has tremendous health hazards associated with it. Plastic, fast food, packaging and cheap electronic waste threaten the well-being of humans. Ocean acidification. It's a direct impact of excessive production of carbon dioxide. 25% of carbon dioxide produced by humans. The ocean acidity has increased by the last 250 years, but by 2100 it may shoot up by 150%. The main impact is on shellfish and plankton in the same way as human osteoporosis. Genetic modification of food using biotechnology is called genetic engineering. Genetic modification of food results in increased toxins and diseases as genes from an allergic plant can transfer to target plant. Genetically modified crops can cause serious environmental problems as an engineered gene may prove toxic to wildlife. Another drawback is that increased use of toxins to make insect-resistant plant can cause resultant organisms to become resistant to antibiotics. Human and environmental exposure to increasing numbers, concentrations and types of chemicals. Factors contributing to human and environmental exposures include energy choices, technological change and changing energy consumption. Most of the cities and towns in India are situated near water bodies like rivers, lakes and streams. These are slowly drying up or getting contaminated. As regards sewage and contamination, it has been established that 1.3 billion liters of sewage is discharged into the river Yamuna every day. This holds good for other towns and cities also. Out of 22 drains which spew effluents in the river, 20 have not met water quality standards. Out of 16 sewage treatment plants which were to be set up through a Supreme Court order in the year 1995, only 8 have been completed so far, and out of this only 5 are operational. Parliament Standing Committee on Environment reported in Times of India 30 April 2001. In the capital, only 2 pollution monitoring stations have been set up, although 19 were sanctioned 4 years ago. Almost all the Asian cities have airborne particulate levels twice the standards set by the World Health Organization. Vehicles have taken over industries in contributing to the air pollution load. In January 1999, Delhi had 2.6 million vehicles and the number is increasing by 500 per day and raising the suspended particulate matter load to 5 times that of World Health Organization norms. Now let us know about the environmental impact assessment and public hearing, the importance of it. The first attempt at a comprehensive statutory environment impact assessment program began on 27th January 1994 when the Union Ministry of Environment and Forests issued a notification dealing with mandatory environment impact assessment. The notification mandates a public hearing and requires the project proponent to submit an environment impact assessment report to the Impact Assessment Agency for clearance, with further review by a committee of experts in certain cases. The Impact Assessment Agency is the ministry itself. The Environment Impact Assessment regulations apply to 29 designated projects, industries, which are enumerated in scheduled first to the notification. In April 1997, the ministry took a first step towards decentralizing the environment impact assessment regulatory machinery by shifting the responsibility of environmental site clearance in respect of thermal power projects to the states. Environment impact assessment is an effort to anticipate, measure and weigh the socio-economic and biophysical changes that may result from a proposed project. It assists decision makers in considering the proposed project's environmental costs, loss and benefits. Where the benefits sufficiently exceed the cost, the project can be viewed as environmentally justified. The Environmental Impact Assessment and National Environment Appellate Authority Act 1997. In the year 1997, the Indian Parliament enacted the National Environment Appellate Authority Act 1997, which constitutes an authority headed by a retired Justice of Supreme Court or Chief Justice of a High Court and comprises experts with technical knowledge on ecological matters. This authority is empowered to hear appeals filed by persons aggrieved by the order granting environmental clearance in an area where industrial activity is restricted under Sections 3 Clause 1 and Sections 3 Clause 2 of the Environment Protection Act 1986. This includes project clearance granted by the Impact Assessment Agency. Now let us know about the public hearing in India. Public hearing process in India has still not gained much impetus. In view of the existing practices in other countries and of the basic right to information, it is necessary that members of the public in a locality where development project is to commence get an opportunity to participate in the impact assessment process. However, the position in India is that interaction of experts with the affected population or environmental groups is not mandatory, though the committee of experts has the right to enter and inspect project sites. Availability of reports and recommendations in respect of environmental clearance depends upon the discretion of the officials and on the need to maintain public interest. The amendment notification made it mandatory to have a public hearing before environmental clearance is given. The notice should mention the date, time and place of the public hearing. Suggestions, views, comments and objections of the public are invited within 30 days from the date of publication of notice. The System of Environmental Economic Accounting 2012 provides a measurement framework within which to integrate environmental data in physical and monetary terms with economic data. This organizes environmental information adopting a systems approach to stocks and flows using definitions and classifications that are consistent with those of the system of the national accounts. The strength of the framework lies in the derivation of high quality aggregates which are comparable across countries, consistent over time and go beyond gross domestic product. The System of Environmental Economic Accounting 2012 Central Framework provides the statistical framework for categorizing and analyzing stocks of individual environmental assets such as water, mineral and energy resources, timber, fish, land and soil, the flow of resources into the economy, the exchanges of products within the economy and the return of residuals from the economy. At its 43rd session in 2012, the Statistical Commission adopted the SEEA Central Framework as the initial version of the International Statistical Standard for Environmental Economic Accounts on a par with the SNA and encouraged a flexible and modular approach to its implementation depending on country priorities and policy demands. It is important to note the level of awareness that some cities have attained with respect to waste reduction and recycling for urban sustainability. Waste is treated as a raw material and energy source in Freiburg, while cities like Copenhagen, Curitiba, Kampala, Shanghai, Singapore and Stockholm have made significant progress in recycling and reducing waste. United Nations Environment Programme 2012. Finally, climate has been changing mainly owing to the levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, presenting a serious threat to agriculture. Extreme weather events such as droughts and floods have been affecting food production with dramatic consequences for various agro-ecosystems. In the coming decades, it is expected that climate change will continue to have adverse effects on agricultural production. Now let us know about the environmental audit. Environmental auditing is a system that integrates the interest of the industry and the environment so that these are mutually supportive. As a financial audit discloses the financial health of a company, similarly an environmental audit discloses the environmental commitments of the company. Environmental audit is the assessment of the compliance of environmental administration and performance of an operating business with environmental protection requirements, with sound environmental practice in general and with the principles of sustainable development. Let us know the objectives of environmental audit. The basic objectives are to determine the mass balance of various materials used and performance of various process equipments to identify usage of materials in excess than required, to review the conversion and accordingly fix up norms for equipment performance and minimization of the waste. To identify the areas of water usage and water waste generation and determine the air emission, their sources, quantities and characteristics. The possibilities of waste minimization, recovery and recycling of waste. Environmental information disclosure, the right to know. Information disclosure has become a widely used and highly valued tool for protecting public health and environment. Disclosure programs are widely credited with achieving significant environmental improvements and empowering citizens to play a more active role in protecting their communities. At the same time, information disclosure programs have come under increasing criticism from representatives of the industries whose facilities, emissions and products are subject to public scrutiny as a result of these programs. The right to know is also implicit in Article 19, Clause 1, Clause A, and it has a close link with Article 21 of the Constitution of India, particularly in environmental matters. The right to know plays a very important role in environmental matters. Any governmental plan to construct a dam or information of the proposed location of nuclear power stations or thermal power plants and hazardous industries which directly affect the lives and health of the people of that area must be widely publicized. The term sustainable development was coined by Indian economist Nitin Desai while he was a senior economic advisor to the World Commission on Environment and Development that was established by the United Nations Environment Programme Governing Council in 1983. This commission later came to be known as the Brundtland Commission. The world is faced with challenges in all three dimensions of sustainable development: economic, social, and environmental. More than 1 billion people are still living in extreme poverty and income inequality within and among many countries has been rising. At the same time, unsustainable consumption and production patterns have resulted in huge economic and social costs and may endanger life on the planet Earth. Achieving sustainable development will require global actions to deliver on the legitimate aspiration towards further economic and social progress, requiring growth and employment and at the same time strengthening environmental protection. Now let us know the importance of education in the environmental field in India. Environmental education is a learning process that increases people's knowledge and awareness about the environment and associated challenges, develops the necessary skills and expertise to address the challenges, and it also fosters attitudes, motivations and commitments to make informed decisions and take responsible action. Environmental education enhances critical thinking, problem solving and effective decision making skills, and also teaches individuals to weigh various sides of an environmental issue to make informed and responsible decisions. Environmental education does not advocate a particular viewpoint or course of action. The Stockholm Conference of June 1972 on Human Environment stressed on the efforts required at the national and international levels on the environment educational program. Accordingly, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization (UNESCO) and United Nations Development Programme (UNDP) launched an international program in environmental education in the year 1975. In India, a step in the direction of increasing awareness, particularly among rural areas, was taken in the seminar in 1984, which was partly funded by International Development Centre, Ottawa, Canada. Some of the important proclamations and recommendations in this seminar were: it's a fundamental human right to live in an unpolluted environment. It is the fundamental duty of every individual to maintain purity of environment. There should be a uniform central law on environment protection. Till such a time the centre passes such a law, a manual should be prepared of all the central and state laws relating to environment. Now to conclude, I would say the very basic problem in the near future is how to replace existing aging infrastructure in the face of a growing population and declining resources. There is a general awareness being created on the impact of environmental degradation on our day-to-day life. We understand, though a bit gradually, the need to live in harmony with nature. The importance of cleaner and greener technologies cannot be overemphasized. All natural resources have to be harnessed in a sustainable manner to ensure the well-being of our future generations. Community-led Environment Action Network Clean India program initiated by Development Alternatives addresses these specific issues in a systematic, scientific and in an evolutionary way for decent, productive and sustainable livelihoods for the country's teeming millions. In order to solve these problems, a concerted effort and effective strategy has to be formulated. This would involve creation of satellite townships, and shifting of small-scale industries from the city limits, conservation and harvesting of water, treatment of effluents, cleaning up of water bodies, adoption of cleaner technologies to eliminate toxic effluents, regular continuous monitoring and enforcement, and the strategy to check air pollution are cleaner fuels for vehicles. Use of CNG is a step in the right direction. In addition, rigorous measures need to be taken to minimize content of benzene and sulfur, especially for diesel vehicles. Improve public transport system by introduction of an alternative like underground or elevated high-speed rail transit facility. Increasing of tree cover reduces dust and smog in air. In Delhi, although green cover has increased from 26 square kilometers to 60 square kilometers in the last 5 years, much has to be done. A joint concerted effort has to be made by the forest and horticulture departments to provide tree saplings, selecting denuded areas and planting carried out with the help of communities. We can take a cue from Bhutan for Life, an innovative funding of conservation led by World Wildlife Fund and the Royal Government of Bhutan exists to overcome these challenges while also utilizing the great opportunities existing within its own forests. Among their many goals, Bhutan for Life will be preserving the parks, maintaining wildlife and ensuring this can continue. Much of this will be achieved through what they can describe as balance, that is balancing the ancient traditions with the modern materialistic desires. With this balance in place, they hope that Bhutan will continue to not only remain a natural wonder, but to also establish itself as a beacon of light, pointing other nations towards the achievability of a more sustainable future. The same steps we can also take and make our nation a better place to live and be free of environmental pollution. Dear students, I hope you have enjoyed this session, and I also hope that you have understood the future challenges to the environment and the steps that should be taken towards environment protection. Thank you.